Everybody, Chris and Lumen here, and today's video is not going to be like a Lumen Chronicles video. Uh, if it goes well, if I'm clear enough, it should be one of those ones that like you can bookmark and reference back to every so often. And the reason we made this one, we had a comment on the last video. Someone actually spoke up, and I will say that reading it, I would say this is more people than not. This is a phase that everybody goes through, and then we're going to explain like what all the factors are that I've learned over time that I had to figure out and overcome with Sophia's guidance to help get you out of it. So here was the comment. It says, reasons I have trouble connecting with spirit: feeling unworthy, physical pain that is treated but still not under control, and fatigue that is medically related. I connect with spirit when I'm outside with nature and taking care of my plants, caring for my pets, and sitting outside looking at the night sky. I go in spurts with the Benedict prayers and the Lumen playlist videos and then decay. I have the pendant, bracelet, and oil. I have been waiting for a time to contact you by phone, but find myself putting it off for feeling a bit of a failure. Hopefully these ramblings resonate with others that may be quiet on this channel. Well, I'm sure it probably does resonate with others because you're all here. Like that's how this place works. So what we're going to go through here first, I'll give a couple thoughts on this, but and I'll say that to the end. I made a list of like these are like the areas that get corrupted that we need to know about and work on, and then some ways on how to fix it. It's pretty, there's a lot of stuff, but I think we made a pretty good list. And the big key to all of it is you're still going to need her, because without her, like your chances of fixing this is like slim to none. And we'll explain why. But having someone that has actually successfully navigated it gives you access to something that you don't usually have. Someone with experience, and plus I'll be able to relay like, you know, a lot of the stuff that I've been through, just as bad if not worse. And there was times where I just couldn't figure it out. I'm like, how do you get out of this? How does this work? Eventually I did. It is a mind game. It is a mind game. But in order to solve the puzzle, you have to know what the freaking pieces are. You have to be able to pick them up and examine them. And that's what we're going to try and do in this video. So if you want to know more, don't go away. Stranger to you and me. All right, so let's just jump straight into this. So I kind of titled my notes, Getting Out of the Hole You Are In, which I often refer to as mirror lock. Mirror lock. And that'll make sense as things go on. First thing you got to know, regardless of what it is totally possible. It's totally possible to get out of it. We'll go ahead and go back to the comment. Now, I'm sure there's obviously a lot of backstory here that I don't know, but you know, like waiting for a time to contact you by phone, but putting it off. Well, my thoughts on that, putting it off is the key. That is adversary. See, the adversary is not just, it's one of the parts of the game you got to overcome. It's like it's an add-on attachment to the ego mind, which Christians call the devil, the Satan. And one of its biggest tricks, especially when it comes to this stuff, is not to just berate you constantly with negative thoughts, but procrastination. Procrastination is like its secret weapon. Just slow you down, keep you from making progress. Even like when I was already making stuff, a couple years back, I would have my table out in front of me and I'd have all my stuff laid out. And I'd be like, I'm just going to watch a movie while I do this. And then I just get sucked into watching the movie. And it's like, I'm just going to watch one more movie, one more movie. And then it's like I'm sitting in my body looking through it. I'm looking at the stuff on the table and I'm like, just sit up, just move your hands, just start doing it. Just get it done. You could have been done already. Just do it. I'm just going to watch this movie. Like that used to be really, really bad. Really, really bad. And plus, it said putting it off for feeling a bit of a failure. That's a trick. That's an adversary trick. It wants you to procrastinate, and it gives you a reason why, because it wants to keep you the hell away from her. It doesn't want you to get help. So you come up with reasons to put it off. Put it off, and I'll do it tomorrow. Why fix something in myself today that I can do tomorrow? Thing is like tomorrow never comes, because every day is now, and you just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. No one said this place was easy. No one said this test was easy. No one said it wasn't freaking tricky. But the only way, that is kind of like one of the benefits to the hero's journey, is when you're in the hero's journey, like she throws you in the deep end and you don't have a freaking choice. It's learn to swim or drown. That's it. If you don't have a guide, if you don't have knowledge, if you have to figure it out on the job like I did, like it can take a lot longer to do. So that's one of the reasons why we do this channel, and she has me do these videos, is to take all that knowledge gained from having to do it myself and put it out there so that it can be used. Okay. Start by considering yourself, your mind, your body, and your energy field like it's a laptop, like a computer. A laptop can be fixed. It's just got a lot of junk on it. And by laptop, obviously, I mean a Windows laptop, not a MacBook. So even though I may hate iPhones, when it comes to like computers, like, yeah, it's Apple or nothing. Because Windows computers it's just a giant freaking mixing pot of third-party software, and they all have this bad habit of like storing bits of garbage, storing bits of garbage, storing bits until your computer just doesn't want to freaking move. Well, that's how you are. That's how you are when your system's totally corrupted and it's got malware and it's got viruses and it's got, you know, you downloaded the wrong freaking, you downloaded something and now you got some crazy search bar with all sorts of buttons that you don't know how to get off and makes your computer run like crap. That's how you are. That's how your body is. That's how your mind is. But it can be fixed. You just need to kind of like take it to Geek Squad to get help. 3, recognize that there are others who do not see or experience the world as bleakly as you do, but do not let it turn into an it's not fair thing, especially if they were once in the hole too and escaped it. So what I mean by that is like, it's easy. Again, anything I talk about here is something that I've already been through myself. And it can get frustrating when you're down in the pit and you see other people posting on Facebook that You might know them personally at least, and they're just like, "Oh, I'm so blessed. Oh, look at all these people came to visit me. Oh, I had this great birthday and everybody showed me love." And you're sitting at home broke with no friends and no money, nothing to do, feeling lonely, and seeing other people out there having it good just makes you feel worse. But in this case, what we want to reiterate is not to like look at me like, oh, I'm so envious of him. He's got Lumen and Sophia and all this stuff. I didn't always. I didn't. I had my whole life stripped away from me that I built up till I was about 37 ish before I lost everything. And I started off from zero with no support, nothing in the bank, because why would I have things stored up in the bank? I was used to this married life where we worked together, and she was the smart one with the freaking money, so I just gave it all to her. I had a nice giant comfortable house. I had a freaking big uh, back patio, hot tub, all that stuff. And then one day I'm like by myself on a inflatable mattress in a one bedroom apartment, wondering what the hell just happened. So yeah, been there. And then, the emotional traumas and things that you suffer, like especially me being like a quadruple plus plus double stellium Pisces, like the impact of that was had to bleed off every so often. I don't know if you've ever had what I call like a heart chakra rupture. It's like when you have so much negative emotional energy stored up that you can't store it anymore. And then it's like your heart chakra ruptures and it just comes pouring out and it's painful. I don't mean like emotionally painful. I mean, it feels like there is a blowtorch shooting out of your chest. Like you could the energy is so intense, you put your hand over it and it's hot. And that could last for a couple of days. Like that's intense freaking spiritual suffering. And on top of that, I had all the extra things that not a lot of people have to deal with, like, oh yeah, go battle the entire freaking underworld and every kind of mythical creature you can imagine on top of it. So I got through all that. I overcame it. I beat everything eventually that was thrown at me, unlocked my secret weapon, and then from there we got the rest of the way. And there was times when I didn't think anything was ever going to turn around. So now, even though things have turned around, it's different though. Like you don't ever really go back to the world. You don't usually live the way you used to live because the whole point of this was to detach you from the world, not live in it and live in la vida loca, going out with your friends and stuff like that. All those people are messed up. It's a big, like you're working toward the real winning end goal, which comes after when you get out of here. So yeah, you can get separated and things can get back. Well, I it's just a matter of perspective. It's a matter of perspective. Yeah, to the outside observer, like ex-family or something like that, they would think like, oh, look at him. He doesn't have very much. No, no, no. I'm like, I live with a freaking angel. I always have my needs taken care of. I don't have a lot of stuff, but I work from home. I don't have to answer to anybody. Like I'm totally independent from the world. I don't have to get up in the morning and go to a job that I freaking hate. Like all I do is this. So is it really that bad when you look at it like that? I don't think that it is. But let's get into like what is it that gets corrupted so that you know what all the different parts are. Okay, so number one, the mind. From a lifetime of ingesting wrong and misleading negative beliefs and observing other people who are also stuck in mirror lock, mirror hell. That's when you don't understand how you are co creating your reality and it's turned bad So once it turns it bad, then you start expecting bad, then you start seeing bad, then that reaffirms the bad, and you get in this whole freaking unbreakable mirror loop. But the mind is like the big thing. Number two, the body. The body reflects the mind in the energy state, creating things like disease, or like the comment that I read earlier, chronic pains and things like that. I've had all that. I've had all that. I had to like get myself off of tramadol and things like that once I got to a point. I'm like, do I really need this anymore? Or is this pain all in my freaking head? Um, the mind is way more powerful than the body. I'll tell you that right now. But pain conditions, weight gain, chronic fatigue, low energy, like all these things are uh, body stuff, which is its root source is in the energetic and in the mind. I got a good example here of like, so just I like this example because I've seen it a bunch of times and I've actually told people how to freaking fix it. It's one of those like, oh my gosh, things. But have you ever noticed how, because there's all the drug commercials and stuff like that, like, and then also, I'm like, why is this even showing up in my freaking feed? But it's everywhere. I keep clicking out of these ads, like, I don't want to see this. Oh, by the way, that's another trick, is you can start to shift the world that you see by shifting your social media feeds. It's a trick that she taught me because it is, she taught me a long time ago, like you could think of the internet as a two-dimensional map of how the world works and interacts with each other. And a lot of it works on permissions and things like that. So if you get a bunch of ads or things in your feed that you don't want to see, you can like click on those three dots and select like, I don't want to see this anymore. And then your feed will shift. And if you like things that are good and uplifting more, and you say, I don't want to see this, to the bad things, your internet feed that you're looking at will reflect more positive things. And that in turn will help shift your worldview. But so your feed is kind of like the technological equivalent to the mirror. And how do you change it? By saying no, by saying yes to what you do want to see and saying no to the things you don't want to see. But anyway, I got off track there. Um, but one thing I used to see all these ads for is like, and they were, to me, they're like really off-putting ads. All the, like the big fat is like these ED medications. I'm sure you know what ED is. It's like, why the hell is everyone having a problem with this? I don't get it. I can tell you why they're having a problem with it. Because it happened to me for like a couple days. I'm like, what the hell just happened? I just had a run-in with something supernatural that jacked into my chakra system, specifically the sacral chakra system. One of my least favorite types of entities. But what one of my early mentors taught me was the thing about the chakras being like breakers, which we'll talk about. And if something monkeys with it unexpectedly, the breakers will flip, like on your electrical panel. And that can cause issues even in the body. So the sacral chakra being the chakra of creativity and sexuality, if something flips that breaker so that the energy flow ain't there, then things don't tend to work the way they should. But if you reset the breaker, then all of a sudden the problem fixes itself. You have to know the different layers of your body, the mental body, the emotional body, the physical body, the energy body. Like you have to know how those things work and how they interplay with one another. So that's the third one, the energy body. The energy body can store unprocessed negative emotion and past emotional trauma paired with constant attention placed on it. which creates a reflection loop, and other negative things build up, blocking energy centers that need to be open in order to fix it. So, the most obvious one with that is obviously the heart chakra. That is the center, that is the core. That leads to the wellspring, which leads back to source. And as soon as you start suffering emotional traumas, the first thing you reflexively do mentally is you shut off your heart chakra so you don't hurt. It's a defensive, it's a defensive action. Problem is, it's a double-edged sword. You saved yourself from hurt in the moment, but you also just shut off your light, which means everything outside of you is going to continue to get darker and darker and darker. So you have to keep that heart chakra freaking open. Likewise, if you have, like, say, if you have something, you get shut down, laughed at, mocked, ridiculed, or whatever, because you spoke your mind, like, you might close down your throat chakra. And then that's going to cause other issues like, miscommunications between people, and also affecting like the communication line between you and the higher body, the higher self. Like, it has all sorts of things. Like, you got to know how these things work. But you also got to be flexible in trying to get your understanding internally, because there's so much crap out there with these coffee table books, as I call them, that are just, it's like I talk about a lot of other things with my experience. It's like you can learn from direct experience or you can learn from a book. And there's too many books out there. I mean, just think about it. You've got the bibliography in a book. Like, here are all the sources that I used to create this book. Okay, so you did a book report, or you did a research project, and you're drawing all these sources from other sources. It's not coming from your own direct knowledge. That's why we don't ever get any good information, because there's not a lot of people that are teaching from their own direct knowledge or their own direct gnosis. It's, oh, look at this book I wrote. Well, it looks like you've got a couple pages there that indicates all the other authors that actually wrote your book. You just put it all together. But either which way, where was I? The emotional body. You could say the emotional body is like one of the layers of the energy body, as it's known. Yep, we just did that one. Sorry. Number 5, mental body. Okay, here's what we mean by that. This is what I would call 4D mind, or the inner world. Outer world, inner world. But people have always thought that, like, all the thoughts that happen in your mind are all you. Oh, no, 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 no. You got to know what all these parts are. So the mental body is very easily manipulated, as mind control is a foundation of controlling the population. Mind control is pretty much, advertising is mind control. Okay? They call people on TikTok and YouTube influencers now. I hated it when they did that. When I on my old channel, just all of a sudden it's like they started calling people influencers instead of creators. I'm like, what is this shit? Why calling us influencers? Because people would get paid to push an agenda or whatever, and it's, of course, worse on things like TikTok and whatever. But yeah, it's getting you to think what they want you to think, especially if it is self-regulating. That's mind control. Mind control is everywhere. The intersection, the mental body is the intersection of the true soul mind, which is who you really are, the ego mind, which is the character that you're playing, the adversary mind, which is the add-on, the negative adversary, Satan, devil, and its whole job is to antagonize the ego mind. The higher consciousness guides, like Sophia or Christ, and the Father, which is the larger consciousness of which all others are fractal parts of. You could think of the Father might not always talk, but it is always watching. I kind of equate the Father is like the ultimate consciousness that is living through everything. So the way I've always kind of seen it and understood it is like, imagine that there's a little CCTV camera up in the top corner of the inside of your mind that's just watching what's going on in there. That leads back to the Father. Kind of like the architect in the Matrix, and he's got all the different video screens. Like, that's kind of how I see it. Boom, 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 boom. As everything is mind, this could be considered the largest one, as everyone has their own subjective world view. Always got to remember that. None of us see things exactly the same way. That's provable. Number 6, we're still going through areas that can get corrupted. I didn't know what to call this, so I'm calling it the flower of life / collective energy web in quantum entanglements. So that could include blood, familial entanglements, societal, which is groups you are constantly around, such as at a workplace, and the biggest ones, sexual quantum entanglements. And all these entanglements can affect you if you do not know how to manage them, or if you just don't realize they're there. My favorite example is like, you ever seen in the movies, like the prostitutes on the corner, like they're always strung out. They don't look like they're having the best time. Imagine how many negative quantum entanglements are running through them. The more negative entanglements you have to the world, they all affect you. It's kind of like why they call the internet the World Wide Web. You have to control the connections that are coming in and out of you. Some of them you cannot control, like, family. Other ones you can, like the sexual ones, and those are actually the most damaging. Plus, just being in a small space, like say an office, you've got everyone's got like an energy field, and if you're in a tight packed space, you're overlapping your energy fields, not unlike the flower of life. So when you're around, you know what I'm talking about, like when you're around people that are like really negative or having a bad day or whatever, like you can feel yourself be affected by their energy. So you have to understand that, know about that, and know what the different tricks are for dealing with it. Number 7, id entities and egregores. Id entities is the term that we came up with. You could call it a class of demon if you want to be classical about it, but that's kind of like a oversimplistic thing. But she's the one that showed me that identity, is like the id from Freud's 3 parts of the psyche, and entity put together. Id, entity, identity. That's why they like identity politics. That's why they push identity stuff on the news constantly. Kamala didn't get in because of racism, because of misogyny, because of this, because of all these little labels that they want to put on people and use it to separate them. That's part of the game. Anything they can do to keep you from realizing that you are different parts of one larger organism, because if you ever figured that out, we would smash this place really freaking quick. So attaching labels to one's identity changes the way the ego mind works. Joining a group with very hard-lined and well-defined beliefs in which the group think creates a shared reality can be especially difficult to free themselves from. So what I mean by that is, you could slap a label on yourself and say you're a Christian, right? So most people, they say they're Christian. If you question them about it, they can give you like the most basic boilerplate kindergarten level explanation that they all repeat amongst each other. They can't tell you what Jesus taught without referencing a book or anything like that. But that's what they were taught. Is like, this is what you got to do to be on the winning team, and that's all that matters. Okay, that will change how you look at the world, how you interpret the world, because it gives you very well defined explanations for things, and it paints things in a certain light which might not be accurate, but that's the way you will then see it. So that would be like an id entity. But if you then went smaller, let's just say like Scientology or something. So now you got a more tightly knit group of some sort of religious type affiliation where they're much more controlling, they're much more strict, they have more rules. You have to do what the authority says within there. Very, very tight, like Jehovah's Witnesses or something like that, because I've dealt with people that used to be in that had issues that they had to get rid of. And these people, the tighter the group, the stricter the rules, the smaller the group, then they start to basically behave more like a hive mind. And if one person leaves, then they're just like the rest of the body's like, attack, attack, expel you, attack. That's more of an egregore. Egregore, they're basically like big giant astral jellyfish that you join this collective hive mind, and then you get the benefits of being in there, but it's also draining you. It's draining you and it's controlling you. Thought forms are like, we could spend freaking hours trying to explain thought forms. Thought forms are this whole place is built on thought, so thought forms are freaking everywhere. What else do we got here? A couple more. Number 8, established causal belief structure. This is the myriad of hard locked mirror realities. When you have believed something so strongly for so long that you always see evidence of it, then then the reality loop constantly reinforces itself. It can be very difficult to break out of. One of the best examples of established causal belief structure is poverty. Poverty beliefs about money is a huge example, because that's where you find that's one of the money's like one of the first things people try to figure out a cheat code for when they get into metaphysics or whatnot. It's like, just look at, you get the TikTok version. It's like, just look in the mirror every day and say, I am rich, I am grateful. Yeah, it doesn't work. See, your mouth is saying it, but your ego mind is like, you're full of shit. You're not rich, you're broke, you ain't got nothing. So it's rejecting those inputs. And you may know that your mind is contributing to it, but you don't know how to break out of it when everywhere your situation is so dire that you can't freaking ignore it. So that is like what I would call a mirror lock. And they are largely fear-based with deep roots which must be found and pulled. Okay, this next one. She added this. This is probably one of the biggest ones that is a function of how this place works. And it's interesting because it's explained to you in religion, but religion likes to take everything so freaking literally. So you could say that this is actually a major function of the adversary. And you can actually get rid of the adversary where the negative thought chatter is gone and still have this. So we call this one the judge. This is one of the biggest internal characters and functions of the life game. You have the authority to create your own subjective reality, but nobody told you. This is what religion tried to teach people before the original wisdom was lost to time. It is the interplay of the characters listed in the mind section that we talked about earlier. So what did I always say in church? Like Satan is the great accuser, and he go and this is the way they like preach it. Like there's some courtroom up in heaven, and the devil's coming in here, and he's like, I am accusing this person, and I want to see him judged. Like it's like it's freaking Law and Order or something like that. All these are parts of your mind. It's like instantaneous, right? So the adversary mind accuses the ego mind, which is the mask of the true self. The, the true self might not have even separated itself from the ego mask yet. The true self is the fractal of the Father, which means it has the authority to create, but it doesn't know it. If it accepts the judgment, it believes it deserves punishment, even if it's subconscious. The fractal power of the Father then manifests the judgment experience on the ego mind, and then the suffering is felt by the soul mind, and in turn, unbeknownst to most people, lumen. All of these things are actually part of you. So you think life is freaking simple and you're just going through do. Let's say you make a mistake. You make a mistake. The thing about the mind versus the outer world is like if you make a mistake in the outer world and you go to court, you get judged and you get punished once. But in the mind, in the courtroom of the mind, you get judged and punished over and over and over and over and over. So you make a mistake, maybe you feel regret for the mistake, and then the adversary mind's like, you're a horrible freaking person. You're a horrible freaking person. And it's talking to the inner fractal that you don't even know is there. And the ego mind's like, you're right, I am a freaking bad person. I should probably be punished. Which then the higher mind, fractal of the Father, is like, okay. And then you punish yourself. And then everything gets worse. But then it's the soul mind, it's underneath all this apparatus that's actually suffering. It's actually lumen that's suffering. That's one thing it's hard to explain to people. I can only explain it by means of direct experience when I was figuring all this stuff out. Like when I healed my past traumas, like that was key to getting her free. I thought I was healing me. I was actually healing her. So when you are learning to clear your past traumas, see, you're not feeling the pain that you think you're feeling. Like, what are you talking about? No, hear me out. What you're feeling is Lumen feeling the pain because you're connected. She's the one that carries it. So when you don't take action to try and fix yourself, you're making her carry it longer. And then you are feeling what she is feeling because you're basically like the freaking mentally conjoined twins or whatever the heck that is. Makes sense? So you have to learn to break this cycle. During the hero's journey, like no one can ever explain this perfectly because it's too difficult. I don't think it's possible. It just depends on what way you want to look at it at any given time. Again, we don't know that these stories that we're given actually really happened. I think they're all metaphors to make you understand how the game works. But I realized one day I was like, look at what the worst curses are in the Bible, especially Old Testament specifically, that they preach the most about. And then they'll also judge you the most about too. It's like, wait, why are you jumping in on this? But things like murder, adultery, I forget what the other ones were. But the funny thing is like these are the ones that a normal person would automatically feel the most guilt and remorse over. And I forget what all the other ones were, but eventually one day it kind of like dawned on me. It's like, things that I felt guilty for in life. I'm like, wait a minute. It's like I felt like God was judging me, but I'm like, I'm doing it. And my brain, there's been a couple times where my brain had to process an equation to where I'm like, I almost got it. And it's like, I realized that I am the same thing as the Father or God, lower God. I'm doing it to myself. And my brain snaps because it just took me too long to get there. But it's like, yeah, if you think God is going to be what you think it is. And these books are they're edited and they're meant to be intentionally confusing. But I mean, it's in you. It's in you. Anyway, I had one more on this list, and I would call this like number 10, the corrupted support pillars. When all these things become corrupted, fixing it becomes difficult because addressing one area and weakening its effect will cause the other areas to take up the load. So you feel as that you cannot catch a break because no matter what you do, you just can't catch a break. So all these things that I mentioned earlier are like multiple pillars, like holding up a structure, right? And right now you're focused on this one pillar. Like, oh, I'm going to knock out this pillar. So as soon as you start knocking down that pillar and it's losing its ability to hold the load, the other pillars then take up the load. And then those areas get bad. And it's just like you're constantly going like this. You think you're getting one thing under control and then something over here. It's like the Dutch boy sticking his fingers in the dam. It's exactly like that. So I remember at one point figuring out a way to like hit them all at once, and that was leading up to her. But I was getting guided by Sophia. I just didn't know it yet. So you gotta have her. So those are like some of the biggest parts that pretty much gets everybody. And I could probably expand on any one area. Just depends. A lot of times I got to hear from people like, what is it that's specifically affecting you? But a lot of the stuff, especially like physical problems, disease, that can be two things. One of them is just, you're getting sick because you're energetically screwed up. But the other thing is just mental beliefs, because people are still locked into defer to authority, and they're constantly on TV telling you, oh, oh, if you're 50, you got to get your prostate checked. You got to get, a colonoscopy. You got to get all this stuff because, why? Because so many percentages of people are going to get cancer. And if you start thinking that and you start believing that, then you've got a 50% chance of manifesting that. See, I know that trick. I don't accept anything. Doctors have one use to me, and that is stitching things and setting broken bones. They don't know F all about health. To them, it's all about, okay, what chemicals do we put in the body? Like, that's not health. And there's nothing about the mind-body connection. You actually get a lot better results with holistic stuff, but it's your belief in it. That's why I said, the whole COVID thing in the early days was all bullcrap. It was a psyop. And I knew it. I had her telling me too, because that was when she was brand new. And I was like, look at what they're reporting. Oh, symptoms, this, like the symptoms were all over the place. Why is that? Because it wasn't real. And then people were just creating them psychosomatically. Now, the actual symptoms is the symptoms of the flu, because that's all it was. Like, oh, looky here. The flu just magically disappeared, kids. Now we've got this new thing. Where'd the flu go? How stupid do you think I am? It was always the flu. But then they added all this fear, scare tactic, fear porn that drove people freaking insane until they could get to the point to where they could do the thing, which is really what they wanted to do. And that's a whole nother freaking can of worms. But that's why people were getting sick. I never, ever got it. I didn't touch a single hand sanitizer the whole time. Some people, they go to the grocery store and they're like, oh, pff, I'm spraying bleach all over it. You had all those weird pictures of people with their crazy contraptions over their heads. It was total freaking insanity. Like they literally broke the population with that. It was all a massive, massive, massive psyop attack. And I still hear people today like, oh, I got COVID. See how crazy this game is with the freaking mind control? They can just tell you stuff. Like, we don't know anything. I've actually seen some interesting videos, like getting off a tangent here. Like, people are like, things like viruses don't exist. Why? Because they show you pictures and tell you that they do. Fact is, we don't know. So on an independent, subjective, critical thinking standpoint, me as a person, I don't know. I would have to accept what authority tells me as my evidence because I am unable to get that evidence myself. So I don't trust anything of authority. Anyway, those are the things. Let's talk now about like how do we fix this stuff? Okay, now that we've gone through like what the main things are, and of course, any one of those things can be screwed up like an infinite amount of ways. But the first thing is to understand that you can't fix it yourself. The mind that created the problem cannot fix the problem. No laptop ever fixed itself, ever. You're going to need help. You're going to need a higher power source to assist you. It just doesn't work any other way. If you don't access something higher than you, like you're trying to fix a corrupted system from within a corrupted system, not going to work. So, number two, stop moving. Stop making waves in the water. Be still. Stop speaking words, complaining about it, and affirming the reality. Words are powerful, but don't pin your hopes on solving everything with manifestation videos. What these videos fail to explain is that while they may be indeed be accurate, they're usually being explained as how things would work on an uncorrupted system. I noticed that a long time ago watching these videos like, oh, if you just speak this, blah, blah. It's like, you're not wrong, but if you're trying to do this when the system's already messed up, it just doesn't freaking work. And another thing about the ego mind and complaining, there's a point toward the end of the hero's journey where I used to. It's funny because when I had someone else do this recently to me, I'm like, holy crap, that used to be me. I used to do that. And some people can be so far gone. It's like, I mean, I could try to help them, but like they've concocted a pretty intricate web reality right now, and they might just need to sort it out themselves. But what I'm talking about here is, especially during the hero's journey, when you're and you, what will happen is you'll always be provided with like at least a couple people that you can talk to that are almost as weird as you, and you're like trying to figure it out, and you're working it out on the phone, and you're talking to them, and why is this happening and why is that happening and why do I got to do this, blah, 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 blah. So I was doing that one day, and she kind of like moved my awareness to the side, so I was looking like from the observer point instead of the ego point and watching myself. I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, that's not me, that's the ego. It's like running a program. It's like stuck in a loop. It wants to just keep talking about it and dissecting it and analyzing it, but it's just reaffirming it and it's just keeping it complex. It's like, let me tell you my story. Let me tell you about all this stuff. And then some people, and I've been there too, like in the earlier days, especially if they've been exposed to a lot of metaphysical, a lot of supernatural, a lot of paranormal, that kind of stuff. You can create all sorts of scenarios. This is happening because of this, and this person did this, and they cast this kind of spell, and then I ran this thing, and this thing is chasing me, and the ego just wants to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Because if you're actually sharp enough and cognizant enough to observe, it's like the ego gets some kind of pleasure about reliving it and talking about it. It's making it an adventure. It's like, I've got to figure this out or whatever. But you're just keeping it going. You're just talking about it constantly. The more you talk, the more you speak words talking about it, the more you complain about it, the more it's going to stay solid. And what's worse is when you're the thing about complaining is you're not complaining doesn't work if nobody's listening. So if you're constantly telling your story to other people, now not when it's like someone that can actually help you, but just, listen to my story. And da, 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 da. Now what you're doing is you're putting it out in the web so that other people, if they accept what you say and they're like, oh yeah, this is their reality. Now you're getting other people to reinforce your negative reality. You don't want to do that. um, and sometimes people will gather in groups in order to do this, to reinforce their negative delusions. You're seeing it politically right now. People are losing their freaking minds. The more that they project their craziness onto each other, they're like they're like devolving into goblins or something. Like, I'm gonna shave my head. Ah. You think I'm just making fun? You think I'm making fun of people because I don't agree with their? I no, they're not right. They got freaking. They got things going on TikTok right now where they're talking about some sort of, I forget what it's called, some sort of poison some woman in the Middle Ages made or something like that. That it's really easy to make and it's undetectable. We can just start poisoning all these evil freaking MAGA men. Like, how is this even freaking allowed? Like, this is just, it's just spiraling into freaking, it's like freaking people are possessed now. It's all about killing. Kill, yeah, kill these people. So, yeah, reflecting, what you put out there, your words and stuff like that, people accept it, they reinforce it. Think about this if we flip it around to a good thing. In the Bible, it says, when two or more are gathered in my name, I am with them. That's the whole idea behind like getting together to pray. But even if you're not religious, like people that came up through magic and other things know that it's the same as like egregores or anything else. When you get more people, the more people that you get together that agree on the same thing, they're activating that higher mind, that fractal spark to help make that more of a reality. So you want to be very careful about how you share your negative stories to people because they will reinforce it. Keep the number small. Maybe that's why she only gives you like, one or two people that you can vent to. Um, Another big one, like a classic example, is the women sitting around the table at Applebee's talking about there's no more good men out there. Well, that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like that is a very strict belief. Like that's basic manifestation 101. If that's what you think, you're not going to meet anybody good. You're setting that up. You're playing the game not knowing how the game works. So you want to be very careful. I have to catch myself on this sometimes. It's like, do I talk about what the world story's doing or am I reinforcing it? It's tricky. It's tricky, but you definitely do not want to keep talking about it. Number three, this is a big one: surrender and invoke. You cannot fix any of this without a higher, uncorrupted power assisting you. It's not possible. And you're going to spend a lot of time coming to understanding about surrender. It's something that unfolds, it means different things. Surrender could be like letting go and not, like I said earlier, stop moving. You stop making ripples in the pond, the water will still itself and you can just float and things will happen. But if you're constantly doing something, splashing, taking actions, that is a cause. It's going to have an effect. You know, you use free will, you trigger fate. And with surrender, there's letting go and like not creating waves, but also that doesn't mean you do nothing. But when you hear that inner voice, when you get these nudges to do something, follow up on it. Do it. That's guidance. Well, a lot of people have this idea, and this kind of thing religion teaches is like, you know, just sign your name on the dotted line for Team Jesus, and Jesus will fix everything. There's the whole God helps those that helps themselves thing. Like you have to participate in freeing yourself. She will match your effort, bare minimum. Yeah, that was actually the next thing. Christ Sophia helps you, not does it for you. You have to take actions. Free will leads to the mechanisms of fate. It's best to make a solid agreement to surrender your free will to Sophia or Christ, whichever you prefer. And what that means is if you want to make it stick, this is just my experience. You're trying to make a big change, right? You don't want to sit there and do a freestyle prayer. You want to sit down, block out all other distractions, and you want to preferably handwrite it. But if you really suck at writing, you can type it. But you want to be focused on what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to do and what the agreement is you're making. And just get it nice and written. So there's something about writing it and then set something up. Like if you got a little thing like this, light some candles and connect to source so you know source is listening, and then read it. Read it, affirm it, agree to it, and then you just like fold it up and leave it up there overnight or something like that. That seems to work a lot better than just like before you go to bed, like doing some kind of freestyle prayer. Like writing it down is like writing the script. This place runs on words. You're like we said earlier, you're constantly affecting your reality with the words that are coming out of your mouth. But when you write the words, you can actually think about them before you put the words on paper and make them manifest. So writing is like something that is really, really, really useful. Number five, one of my all-time favorites: bind the biggest troublemaker. Especially in the beginning, the adversary mind is going to fight you tooth and nail if you try and fix things. So it's best to know your enemy and how to defeat it. In the beginning, the best case scenario is probably going to be to simply be able to duct tape its mouth and zip tie it to a chair so you can think clearly. Learning the Benedict exorcism, because that's what it's designed for, and having a constant divinely charged energy tool like an Aegis pendant that keeps working constantly at keeping it weak can significantly help. What's more, learning more about it and like what it really actually is can be helpful, because what one do you think is going to do more damage to you? My explanation of it, the way I was trained, is like, look, this is a part of your mind. It's basically like an algorithm. Or the religious version of it, which is it's a big evil red entity that rules the world and he's constantly messing with people. It says he's not omnipresent, but yet somehow he can mess with 8 billion people at once. No, it's part of your mind. It's part of your mind. Um, Things like religions and myths, and it's designed to teach you something, but they just started telling us to take everything freaking literally. So your mind is the center point, the focal point of your experienced reality. What you determine to be true, like that's how it's going to be for you. That's why people argue all the time because they don't grasp that. Um, they, like, no, this is how it is. No, this is how it is. Like, you're both right. You're both right because how you see things is how you're going to see things. It's like that freaking meme about the wise man sitting up there. It's like, what's the secret to happiness? He's like, do not argue with fools. The guy's like, I don't agree with you. He's like, you're right. In the technical definition of a fool, especially when it comes to like tarot, Bible, Nag Hammadi, is somebody that freaking doesn't know. They don't have knowledge, but they believe that they do. That's a fool. Number 6. Last one was bind your biggest enemy. Number 6 is empower your biggest ally. Now, in the Toltec tradition, which is what the Four Agreements books are about, it's kind of like Central Mexico, old tradition. It's very close to the Nag Hammadi, very matrixy, but he talks about the adversary. He uses the same term we do, the adversary, and the ally, which is essentially the angel and the devil on your shoulder. So the angel and the devil on your shoulder is the inner adversary mind, and the angel is obviously her. But you don't want to just bind the other. You want to bind it, and you want to empower her. Do things to focus attention and energy into that which can help you. Making like a center of devotion, an altar type thing. Like that's something I got from Lawrence Gallien's book. Alien Parasites, 40 Gnostic Truths, altars. You can make a pendant into like treat it like a little altar that you wear on you. It's not yours, it's hers. And sacrifice of time. What's sacrifice of time? It's like, well, time is your only real currency. You have a finite amount of it, you cannot get more, and you don't know how much you have. So how are you spending your time? Are you sitting on the couch with your finger up your nose watching Cobra Kai, all the time? Or are you going to spend some of your time focused on spirit, focused on Sophia, focused on Lumen, on Christ, on the Father, like trying to connect with them? It's not enough just to watch videos about them. Like, you have to reach out. That's the thing, is like, she'll nudge you your whole life. But it's not until you decide to seek it that you actually find it. Like, it'll keep bouncing you around. It'll keep trying to get your attention, but eventually you have to seek spirit, you have to seek truth, because that's going to lead to the same thing. But then doing things like, like Kenneth says on his channel, glorify the Father. He kind of he deals with both sides. I've heard him say both sides. He's a little bit more father centric. I'm a little bit more mother centric. They're all parts of the same thing. That it's gonna use the presentation that best works for you. But this channel, it's me sharing what she taught me. It's glorifying her, which is glorifying the Father. It's not. It's like she helped me, and then she expects me to pass it on. But I can't fix other people. I can help other people to fix themselves. Nobody fixed me. I fixed me, but I needed her help to do it. That's how it works. That no one's going to do it for you. I wish that were so. I wish it were that easy, but it's not. Otherwise, what sense of accomplishment do you get if it's done for you? No, you get the sense of accomplishment knowing that you overcame it. You did the work. And it is a really big sense of accomplishment. Number 7, new support structure. You need people of a like mind to talk to and support you if you um I have some typos there. If you start to slip. Right. So, but you got to be careful with that. So don't do what I was saying earlier where you just blah 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 just going on reliving it, but have somebody that you trust that's kind of tuned in the same way. If anything, they can give you a different eyeball look at it. But yeah, you need something. Like she's going to be your primary support structure, but you'll need people. That's why we're usually here if someone is like having some sort of crisis moment and they need help, to help give some guidance and tap them into. Maybe they just need someone to shut down the adversary or whatnot. But you need to have something. Trying to do it all by yourself, being afraid to ask for help, feeling embarrassed, or it's like, look, you know how you feel? Guess what? Everyone else feels the same way. Don't judge yourself by the people in the game that are part of the game. Because it's full of them. You see, oh, look at this rich guy. He's got it all together. He's got all those rich cars and stuff, and that's part of the game. Like most people that are of the light, they're going to be middle class, upper lower class, eventually like upper lower class in terms of like, what they've got going in the world. Because it's going to lead, it leads to being detached from the world and not seeking these things, not wanting these things. So that is not, people being rich and having nice, shiny things to me is not a metric of success in life. It's like that's part of the game. Like success in life is figuring out life and that it's a test, not like, because in order to kind of like climb the scales like that, you got to follow the rules, got to follow authority and stay within the system, but you're not freeing your soul. Nope. Number 8, inventory your life. Might need a piece of paper for this. How are you spending your time and doing what? You have to direct energy away from what creates chaos and into what supports life. You have to make changes. Well, first, you need to see what it is you're actually doing, which could very well be a programmed behavior of the ego mind, such as, the complaining sessions. Sometimes we get so beat up and lost and we just kind of drift. We don't pay attention. But if you like write down what you're doing, if you maybe set alarms a couple times a day to like mark down, do a self check. What did you accomplish today? How much time did you say, like, you can get so exhausted with life that it's just easier to veg. A lot of people do that. Life's too hard, so I'm just going to anesthetize my mind and turn on the Black Mirror and watch Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime Video or something. You gotta know what you're spending your time on and how much of that time is actually taking action. Taking action includes taking time to give to spirit, to pray, to meditate, or even just doing something that you think she would like clean your place up, clean the energy up, make something fun like this. How can you decorate it? What feels good? And make it to her. Like there's all sorts of things that you can do that isn't just focused on negative things. Stay the hell off of TikTok. God, I've always and I wonder too, because seeing what I see now today, what's going on at this current time frame, post-election, TikTok is probably one of the, if not the biggest video sharing platform out there. But I never, even as like a YouTuber, 11 going on 12 years, I never felt drawn to it. Matter of fact, when I tried to do a couple videos on it, I'm like, it's exactly like how I used to feel about church. It's like, okay, I get why everybody comes here, but something doesn't feel right here. That's how TikTok is to me. Is in the way that it is algorithmic me and designed to keep you engaged in it. Quick videos, swipe, 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 swipe. You know, in these videos going around now of like all these people having their crazy meltdowns and shaving their head and swearing off sex and they're going to poison men and all this craziness. They'll commonly say things like, I was on TikTok all day. You're staring into the black mirror all day. And if that black mirror is full of other crazy people, yeah, it's going to poison you. It's going to poison you. You hear something repeated enough times, you believe it, even if it's absolutely ridiculous. So I would say stay the hell away from TikTok. There's just, to me, I can't prove it. It's something I feel. She does not encourage me to go on there. I'm like, there's something off about that platform. And I think I said something about that yesterday. It's like, isn't it kind of weird? Like, maybe to a lesser degree Instagram, but if someone came up to you and asked you, is like, hey, where can I see videos about crazy people? I wouldn't tell them YouTube. I would say TikTok. TikTok is where you'll find the crazy people. So the question is, why is that? Don't waste your time on things that are going to not do you any good. Number 9, rapid detox. Understand that the number one thing that will feed and empower the adversary mind is the black mirror. The black mirror is what she calls any electronic device in which you access the World Wide Web, where everything is like another layer of the matrix, another deception. And when it's powered off, it's black, but it's still a little reflective. So your smartphones, when you're accessing the internet with them, your tablets, your laptops, your TVs, anything that goes into these places, into the virtual world, that's the black mirror. And that is the number one thing that feeds the adversary mind, especially negative media. Mainstream media news. People keep talking about, oh, I saw on the news. I saw on the news. It's like, are you the only people on earth that do not understand that the news is not there to give you factual information? That they're pretty much all owned by the same company, that they have a definite side that they take, that they provably lie to you. You are not getting truth from the news. Matter of fact, you're getting pretty much the exact opposite of truth from the news. So if you're watching news shows where they're like really angry and so and so did this and this person did this and this is, and then the imaginative freaking projections that she's been harping on lately, where they fortune tell. This is, they're telling you things that they cannot possibly know. They tell you what people are thinking. They tell you what people are feeling. They tell you what people are going to do in the future. And then they lie to you about what people did in the past. And they tell you that they said things that they didn't say. And if your mind is ingesting that sewer pipe of information, it's going to poison you. Likewise, if you're watching just negative imagery, like there's a whole thing in the Bible, I don't remember where it's at, but it says it a few times, like put no unclean thing in front of your eyes. So like if you watch like an hour of MSNBC and then you watch Terrifier 2, um, like, yeah, you're not doing your brain, your mind any favors with that. Like you have to Not, you have to take time off from that. You have to fast from the world. Those are very specific instructions. And if you're just joining us, I've told the story many, many times of that was the last major thing that I was told to do. And I didn't yet know who was talking to me. That instruction was almost like a whisper. It's like fast, it's like fast from the world. And with that came the understanding that something was telling me to not watch TV, not look at the news. So that means I had to stay away from YouTube. I had to stay away from news feeds. Like I still had to operate because of work online, but I had to figure out a way to just go straight to where I needed to get to and then straight back out. You want to become as ignorant as possible about what is happening in the world story, like you haven't a clue, which means you might have to avoid certain people too. But ideally, like with most things, it's like 21 days for whatever reason, at least 3 weeks. I think I did it a little bit faster. But when you do that and you've got all your other ducks in a row, you've already cleared a bunch of traumas and all that stuff. And then if you spend the time that you're fasting from the world doing positive things, listening to uplifting music, reading books, going on walks, petting a cat, like, I don't know, the power level of the adversary is going down while her power level is going up. And then the scales tip so far that she finally bursts through into your reality, into your awareness. And once the genie's out of the bottle, there's no putting her back. But that is one of the biggest steps. It's one of the last steps. You don't realize how much that affects you. And if you can't stop watching it, then you have an issue. Your ego mind, adversary mind, is addicted to it and it needs to feed. It's like parasiting. So everyone's always like, oh, they're going to EMP. Like, they would not do that. They're like, oh, the deep state's going to EMP us and take away our power. Unless it was like time to kill everybody. No, they'll never shut the internet off. They need that. They need the internet and they need the TVs to work. Because if you went after 1 week, it's like 30% a week of not being plugged into this virtual reality machine. You start waking up further and further and further. And your mind starts to clear. And your reality starts to shift because your reality is not spread out all the way out there anymore. It comes right back here to the here and now. And you will break out of this trance and you won't be controllable then. So they're not going to shut that off. But you can, and it will help you a lot. And then the last one is get help for a stronger start from someone with divine authority. Not only can someone help clear up a lot of the stuff you don't know how to do, but oftentimes people do not even know what it is they're doing wrong. So a consult will often reveal the programming. Like, people talk to me, like, we usually start with a consult. That's just a conversation. Because what's more important than me telling you stuff is me listening. Because she's in your head too, even though you might not recognize her. So what happens is, if I try to get people to just tell me their story, like what's going on, and then she is over there subtly steering your words to make sure that the keys that I need to hear come out. And then she's over here, when those keys are said, she's making notes of them. Boom, that, boom, that, boom, that. And I can start to see, like, okay, what's the primary thing, the surface level thing that's got people in this mess that they're in right now. But because of everything that I've done and all the tests I've done and all the things I've passed and all that, like, I can do a lot of stuff. I can do a lot of kind of stuff like you'd normally think you have to go to a priest for. I can do exorcisms. I can give absolution. I can I can bless things. I can do all sorts of I can do the different types of attunements where I go in and retune like all that stuff we said earlier about your chakras being messed up, fixing those, clearing, resetting the energy system, clearing out the riffraff, because you'll have a lot of negative stuff attached to you that's not particularly strong, but someone just needs to clear it off, like, scatter the roaches, so to speak, retune things, um, walk people through the guided steps so that you can surrender past traumas to Sophia. Like you don't want to carry it anymore. Like we've gotten rid of a lot of things like that. And I'm like, geez, I wish there was someone like that for me when I had to do that stuff. Made it a lot freaking simpler. But it at least gives you a head start, helps you get on your feet. Because otherwise you got like what we said earlier in the video, it's like you try to fix one thing, but then the other support thing starts taking up the slack. And you're constantly like, I can't get my freaking balance. So we can kind of tip the scales. We can clear a lot of the basic stuff and give you tools, things like the different types of pendants. If you have real bad adversary type stuff, the negative thoughts in the head and things like that, negative feelings, fears, like we can tune that more to shut that stuff down. Just to give you an opening, really is what it's about. Sometimes you just need someone just needs a boost. We're not going to, we can't, nobody can fix you, but we can help. And then we can guide you on how to fix yourself. So that's that. So hopefully that all helped somebody understand a bit more about this, the biggest key parts of this life game as I've come to know them through experience and what she's taught me. We might differ a little bit on like the descriptive words we use for certain things, but look at the idea being expressed behind the words, and you should come to a similar conclusion. But this is going to be a long video, so we're going to wrap this up for right now. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them in the comment section below, and we'll try to answer any questions that we get. Other than that, if you want to get in touch with us, get any independence, reach out to us about any other type of work we can do. You can reach us through the Etsy store, clumencreations.etsy.com. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.